So once again, welcome to our trend radar on the concept of autonomous livestock monitoring. I would say autonomous and AI-based livestock monitoring we have today. And today we'll explore why this innovative solution, which we will see from cattle eye, is crucial for the success and sustainability of the agricultural industry, but of course of the livestock industry in particular. And I will just say a few words about the challenges in livestock monitoring. So it has been long plagued by challenges that hinder the efficiency and productivity because traditional methods rely heavily on manual labor, leading to time-consuming tasks and an increased risk of human error. So without any technological support, we have to do it more or less manual. And this is the main problem here. And as a consequence of this inefficient livestock monitoring, they can be severe. So, for example, rising costs associated with labor-intensive processes, compromised animal welfare due to delayed or missed interventions, and in the end, decreased productivity, which negatively affects and impacts the profitability and sustainability of the livestock operations. And to address these challenges and more or less unlock the future full potential of livestock monitoring, there are autonomous solutions, so solutions which work by itself, also supported by AI technology. And we have there included artificial intelligence, machine learning, sensor networks, and they are all somehow connected. And the market as such is quite broad. So I just summarized here the applications in livestock monitoring or related fields. Goes from breeding management, feeding management, heat stress, behavior monitoring. So it's quite broad, and also on the animal types. But on the other side, also on the providers. So there's just a few of them I listed on the right-hand side. Some vendors along the value chain. So this is not just monitoring, but it's also where to integrate the systems for what kind of applications they are. So it's a huge market, and it's also a market which grows quite fast because we see larger farms, more animals, fewer people running these farms, and also like increased attention to animal welfare. And therefore, I'm very happy that today we have Cattle Eye with us. They will present their novel video analytics platform for autonomous cow lameness detection. And we'll also see how this can help livestock farmers to save like money or resources and increase the well-being of the cows at the same time. So after this very short introduction, I would like to hand over to Terry. We tested this before.
Great. Okay, thank you, Stefan. Yeah, I will start with, so the presentation will take two parts. One is by me, which I will talk about the technology. And then Niall, who's our product director, will talk about uses of the technology and how it can be used in the field. To start off, a little introduction with myself. I grew up on a dairy farm in Ireland, studied engineering, and then worked for 10 years in the telecommunications industry. And in 2004, I founded my first company, which was a software as a service for managing livestock. I grew that up over 10 years, and I sold the business in 2015, exiting in 2019. So it was there I became very familiar of the problem about how we as an industry are going to feed 10 billion people by 2050 with more food requirements, a finite land availability, and with the Paris Accord, how we're going to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the way I seek to help with Cattle Eye is to improve productivity on livestock farming. So our ambition with Cattle Eye is to manage multiple protein types, dairy, beef, swine, and poultry. But we have started with the dairy industry and looking at dairy industry and efficiencies around per farm productivity and looking at two areas. The first area is the use of feed resource, and we do that by monitoring body condition score. And the second problem we want to address is that of lameness in dairy farms. And lameness is a very big issue for dairies. It's a painful condition impacting 30% of cows. It has a severe economic impact because a lame cow won't produce as much milk, won't reproduce as well, and it also leads to premature culling, which has a consequence on greenhouse gas emission intensity. And of course, from a consumer perspective, lame cows aren't attractive because consumer wants to see high levels of animal welfare. So if you like, we're looking at we have three wins. One is the cow is happier. Two, the farmer makes more money. And three, our planet is more sustainable and there's less greenhouse gas emissions. So what Catalyze does is we are a video analytics platform, which the farmer sets a camera above their milking parlor, and we pull footage up into the cloud where it's run through various neural networks. And these neural networks will find the cow in the video, identify her, and also carry out the analysis to provide the insights. And the first insight that we provide is a lame locomotion score, and the second is a body condition score. And it's with that data, the farmer can then carry out an actionable insight, which in the case of lameness, as you see in the picture, the cow's hoof is examined, is trimmed to produce to prepare and to heal the hoof. So to give you some ideas of how the app looks. So from a farmer perspective, they'll see, first of all, a dashboard that shows lameness levels on their dairy. They can identify particular cows. They can look into the cow's profile. So they look at video of the cow walking. They can build a trim list. So if the trimmer is coming, the foot trimmer is coming, then they can build a trim list, or they can look for outliers within groups, low body condition score. So we have a very flexible app which allows the farmer to take the insights and to carry out some intervention. From a perspective of lameness, as I mentioned, has a big economic impact on the dairy. And statistics have shown that if you can reduce lameness levels by 10%, you can save £100 per cow per year. So there's a big opportunity for the dairy to make more money by reducing their lameness levels. There's also other academic research which has proven that each day a cow is lame, that it will cost $3. So if you can reduce those days the cow is lame, then you're going to make a dairy more money. So it's very, very important. To let you see the system in action, what you will see walking past the camera is 6 cows. You'll see each cow has been given a score between 0 to 3, 0 being the lowest score, 3 being the highest score, the more lame the cow is. And that's using a system called the ROM system. So the human will score the cow 0, 1, 2, or 3, and Catalyze will score the cow between 0 and 100. So if we just run off the video, you'll see the first cow walk past. She's pretty lame, so she's a score 1, but a 53 with Catalyze. 48 is marginal, and the third cow is perfect. So a nice low score. Humans have scored her 0. So for the fourth cow coming, you can see the cow is walking very slowly, and she scores very high. So that tells us that the cow is lame. And the next two, they score quite low. So at 21 and then at 25. So the lower the score, the more lame the cow is. So we set up the business in 2019. Our first investor invested £500,000 in the business. And we used that to recruit a team of machine vision experts in Belfast. And we built out our first algorithm. And we monitored about 3,000 cows and the veterinarians scored the cows, providing us with ground truth data with which to train our algorithms. And then in 2020, we had our first algorithm validated by the University of Liverpool, and they had run a 12-week study on our system, comparing the results that we were producing with that of the expert. And they concluded that cattle eye was performing mobility scores similar to a trained score. So we were as good as an expert in scoring the cows, but we outperformed the expert when it came to lameness lesion detection. We've also run multiple studies with the University of Minnesota and also within the CDCB. CDCB in the US use our data to look for genomic traits that point to hoof health susceptibility. I should say that we had our very first paper published in the Frontier of Dairy Science 2 weeks ago. So that's been peer reviewed and approved and published. So we're very happy about that. So it's very important for us as a company to have good external, transparent, independent validation of our algorithms. We've also had a study carried out on our body condition scoring. In this case, the University of Liverpool again applied, and they compared our scores with that of the humans across 4 UK dairies and 12,000 body condition scores and 6,000 cows. So this was between 2 months, between February and March 2023. And we had set specific targets that 40% of the time we would have exact agreement with the human, 75% we were within 0.25, and then 90% within 0.5. And what we discovered was that the algorithm performed better than all of our targets. So we were very excited about that. And as far as we can see, we can't see any camera vision technology which has had such good results published. And this will be another paper that we expect to be published in the next couple of months. Takes a little bit of time before we get the peer review, but we're very excited about our body condition scoring. So that's our 2 insights using machine vision. Can I stop and just see if anybody's got any questions so far before I go on to the next stage?
Yes, I have some questions. You're
Yes.
only doing a visual, so you only make a visual video from the cow, and you can decide from above if the cow has lameness or not. Or do you also look on the side?
No, only the top. We
Only
wanted to
the
make
top.
it, yeah, we wanted to make it very simple to deploy.
Okay.
Because to make it very easy to deploy the solution. So we only used 1 camera and from the top.
Okay, and you identify the cows about the measuring point, the green spots. You say this is like a measurings of a face recognition.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
the same you use on the cow, on the measurements of the point and the lines, and you can identify exactly which cow it is.
Yes, yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. And I'll talk a little more about that because we recognize the cow, but we connect with the milking parlor to learn the cow. So we have to give the cow an identification that the farmer will understand. So we do that by connecting with the milking parlor.
Another question from my side, you said already, so there's 1 camera needed. So what is needed in order to set up the system? And
yeah,
do you have a number on how many cows is like a minimum? Is there a minimum number of cows to that the system makes sense?
Yeah, so for us, right now our smallest, I'll talk about how to set it up in the next slide. But right now our minimum number that we see is about 300 cows would be around the minimum amount. So to talk about the deployment of the technology, it's very, very simple and very low cost. And really what you need is just a camera. It's a Hikvision camera. It will cost maybe 100 euros. You need a power over Ethernet switch, SD card, and then you connect via Ethernet to the farm router. You then place the camera 4 to 5 meters just above where the cow is walking, and you give enough space for the camera to for the cow to walk 3 meters. So the cow walks 3 meters, and we can then, that's enough to score the cow. I mentioned about identification. So we have 3 solutions for the identification. The simplest is to place a camera above an RFID panel reader. So this is a simple solution that we can then use the ID timestamp with the time that the cow walked past, and then we just match the 2 on time. The next one we do is we communicate with the sort gate. So the sort gate gives the cow an ID, and we learn to recognize the cow from the sort gate. So the camera goes either before or after the sort gate. And the third solution is any sort of a milking parlor with RFID is enough to be able to learn to build up a picture of the cow. So we're using the ID readings from the milking parlor, such as the milking parlor detached time, and then we match it with what we visually see. And then over time, the system learns to recognize the cow. So we're recognizing the cow by its visually, but we're using the RFIDs to learn to apply which IDs to apply to the animals.
Okay, so you needed about, for example, 3 months, 4 months, half a year, then you can give away the RFID chips because you know exactly which cow it is.
Yeah, you do, but we like to use both. Like, we like to use both just as a double check. There may be if the cow is dirty or something like that. But yeah, you could theoretically throw away the RFID chips, or maybe put it onto a new. Well, yeah, you could put it onto a new cow. And the key thing is that because cows are moving in and out all the time, it's easier for you then to start to use the ID system there.
I understand. And also about the pollution of the video system, because you're in a building where much dirt, much humidity, and so on. Is this a problem?
Not with this type of camera. It's because we tried with it. It's interesting. It's a good question because we hadn't seen any issues before, but we started using a dome camera. Have you seen the domes that that we've seen problems with dome cameras becoming dirty. So that we've seen that happening quite a bit. But these little cameras here, they're very, very robust, and they've been designed to last for a long time in harsh environments, and we don't see any issues with those types.
Okay, because in Austria it's very common to make a little bit of rain as like to say like a fog for the cows, for that they keep still and they keep wealthy, and so you have a very high humidity, about 80–90%.
Okay, we haven't seen any issues with that type of camera. Okay. So we've even had it in GCC in Dubai. So it was
in Dubai you have no much humidity.
Well, a lot of heat. Well, that's quite true, but a lot of spray and stuff. There was a lot of spray and water. Yeah, but we had no problems there.
Okay, but no, it's good.
The dome cameras, we do see problems with the dome cameras.
But Terry, this is then, you said this is you identify the cow in the end by its visual pattern, right? So how it's looked like.
We use both.
Okay.
But yes, so if, for example, the sort gate has a problem, we can just use the visual.
Okay. Now I get it. So you have an interface to the sort gate, and there you. Okay.
Yeah, we learn the cows from the sort gate, and then we take over.
And do you have specific lighting requirements? So when you have the cow who walks through, do you need?
Yeah, anything that a human would find enough light is fine with us. If it gets too dark, though, if logically you think it is too dark, then it can be a little bit of a problem, and we have to put in extra light. But if you can see it as a human being, it should be enough.
But you can use also infrared cameras for the night or something like that.
We haven't. I don't think we can. I'm not sure. We haven't experimented. I think the infrared would look a little bit different, I think, but we've never tried any.
But the identification is the same process in the AI.
I don't know. Well,
I know.
Okay, okay, fair enough. We haven't tried it, so yeah, I'll take your word for it.
That's what another question what I was having. So the lameness detection is like a pattern in movement, like how is it shaking, how fast, or how what are the
Yeah, the algorithm is around these dots. It's the behavior of these key points. Where's the key points? Yeah, it's these key points, how they move across, the speed, the wobble. These are all attributes that lead to how lame the cow is. They feed into the final algorithm. Because of course it's artificial intelligence, it's a black box, so you don't know exactly what's happening. But our data scientists can experiment. They can make the dots move fast, or they can make them shake up and down and see the impact on the final results.
But you only measured the back legs and not the front legs. Is correct?
No, we're measuring the dots.
Yeah, but you only measured the back side, so the back legs, and not the front legs, because the line is going through then to the head, and the front legs are not measured. Huh? Or is this not right?
I think, yeah, I mean, you know, although, well, for us, we don't know front legs, back legs. We just know lame or not lame, and we know the dots, and we feed the dots into the algorithm, and the algorithm decides. So we don't know if it's front leg or back leg, but we have noticed before some issues with some front leg lameness. So perhaps it's because of the dots. Why would you think that because of we're using the dots that front leg lameness might be harder to find?
It's interesting. How do you develop this system of the points? Was this experience, or how do you come to these points? It's very interesting.
Experimentation.
Okay.
So we tried lots of different points, lots of different ways. Our team were very expert in machine vision for human beings, and they had used this technology for cancer tumor detection in human beings. So they experimented for 4 or 5 months, and then we had our eureka moment when we found these dots used in such a way could tell us if the cow was lame or not.
Interesting, very interesting.
Okay. Cool. So just I suppose I have 2 more slides before Niall can take over. And the first one is our, we've now got close to 100,000 cows across UK, Europe. So we have some in Germany, we have some in South America, we have some in the UK, and we have more in the US. US is a big market for us, a little bit in the GCC, in Dubai. We have reseller deals with GIA, and also with 2 US companies as well, and that's going quite well. To talk a little bit about a case study, we have what you'll see, this farmer has been using the system since March 2022, and we don't know quite why, but we haven't seen any impact on his first lactation cows, but everything above lactation 2, they started using the system in March 2022, and we saw a mobility score decrease on the dairy, which meant that he was using the system well to find the lame cows, and we saw yield increase. He then used the system a little bit less because the owner his wife had passed away, used the system less, and lameness crept up. But you see how yield dropped in both lactations 2 and 3+. And then in December or January 2023, he started using the system correctly, and we saw mobility score drop and yield increase. So there's a really clear inverse correlation between lameness levels and yield on the dairy. So it's very clear that reduce lameness, you get more yield. So that concludes my part of the presentation. Now we can ask more questions at the end, but if there's no direct questions, then we can hand over to Niall.
Thank you, Terry. Niall, would you share your own slides? Should I make you co-host or?
Yeah, is that coming
fine.
through?
Okay.
That's on okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, I'm Niall O'Boyle, Product Director at Cattle. Just a little bit about my background. I'm a veterinarian. I qualified in 2001 from Liverpool in England. I'm from quite close to Cattle base originally and near Belfast, Northern Ireland. Spent about half my career in practice and about half in the US, mainly on large dairies, working and then managing on large dairies in the Midwest. So really, I want to kind of talk more about where Cattle is going to impact the dairy sector, already is impacting and continue to impact the dairy sector. I'm also very excited about the AI and the potential of AI using data like Cattle. So all the images I've in this short deck will be AI generated, apart from the images of real people, because you're not allowed to use them at the moment. So this is about 20 years ago. This is quite a sad, dejected 12-year-old boy, and the reason why he's not, looking so sad is his parents have just brought him to doctors, and because they just realized, he hasn't been well. They've run a battery of tests on him. Unfortunately, they found out he's got type 1 diabetes, which the initial doctor said, it's too hard to control the activity and food and everything. You're going to have to give up playing football. And to make matters worse, he was on the Real Madrid Academy, so very, very excellent young footballer. So he's had to tell his friends, he has to give up playing football. So, and I've got a 12-year-old myself that's into football, so I can only imagine the kind of, if he had that talent, the kind of trauma they were going through. But thankfully, they went to seek a second opinion. And during that time, the continuous glucose monitor was just coming out. So this technology had the ability then, and still does, to track glucose at a real-time level. So they could, he could match the activity and the and what his intake with where his glucose was. So just be able to manage that well. And so thankfully he could go on to play football. And that is a true story, because it's Nacho Fernandez who went on, still plays for Real Madrid and has 5 Champions League medals. So yeah, it was just that continuous glucose monitor and that advent of that technology brought in that trend analysis. It was proactive and also quite comforting, I'm sure, for the parents and the doctor. It was data sharing, so they could look at it in real time to see where he was, how he was controlling it, and then use it predictively as well. And that's really what we've started doing with Cattle, is using data. The nice thing about Cattle is that it's, as Terry's mentioned, it's validated as well as a veterinarian, but it's continuous. It's there every day. It's objective. There's not the differences that we see in people doing it. So it's almost novel data that we're able to use, like this continuous glucose monitor. If you look at this kind of screenshot from the app, this is over, I think this is over a course of a month. And yeah, I think my cursor's hopefully coming up. But the red line is body condition score. So as you can see, the body condition score dipped. Then this lameness levels, the mobility score, came up over where we have deemed the lameness threshold at 50. And just to go into this slide is from a program and mainly used in the US. I know it's other parts of the globe as well. It's called DC305 or Dairy Comp. But they had the advent of using they call it preg rate, so it's a 21-day eligibility rate. So this is the data along the side, how many cows were eligible to be bred in a 21-day window that were bred and got pregnant. So when I first went to the US, having worked in Cheshire in England, I knew about submission rate, but my big focus was on conception rate. When I first went over in the US, the preg rate was terrible. I think the average was around 14%. But now it's up in, if you're not getting high 20s, anybody who, 15 years ago, anybody who was getting in the 20s was just doing phenomenally. But now if you're not getting the high 20s, early 30s, you think you've got problems. So it's amazing to watch that focus. Even they were still focused on conception rate, but they brought submission rate up. Genetics played a big part of that, the environment, the management. But I think the fact that they focused on the eligibility, the breeding, played a massive part. So personally, for me, that was a bit of a game changer on how to focus on additional metrics can improve, rise all boats and improve performance. And I think that's up until now, and I'll go over some of this in a second, in the UK anyway, we've really focused on prevalence for lameness, but I think there's so many other metrics which now Cattle Eye and other products can bring. But Cattle Eye is the first to bring this continuous monitoring, so we can be a bit of a game changer for lameness management as well. And so the goal is to turn that data into information. So we've also, people talk about a tsunami of data coming in all industries actually. I think there's more data gathered per 6 to 9 months now than there was from 2017 backwards to cave painting. So the amount of data is phenomenal, but it's turned that data into information and into insight now, I would argue into actionable insight as well. So yeah, just to touch upon the metrics that can come in with this continuous monitoring, how we kind of get beyond prevalence. So I used to, when I worked in the US, I used to fly a lot, and I always thought I like kind of people watching. I enjoyed flying, not all the time when it was with my wife and 4 kids, because that could be stressful, but it was really good people watching because I always thought airports were a bit like the large dairies I was managing at the time. You know, you have to run it at capacity, but if you have a problem, for example, O'Hare Airport, there's a bit of snow or something goes wrong, the runway was like the rotary parlor. If it broke down, then it was just chaos. But at the same time, if you didn't manage it right at capacity or close to capacity, you weren't making any money because it's so competitive. So I always thought there was a lot of similarities between airports and running dairies. And also for the planes, you have to ensure mechanical integrity. Everything needs to timely arrivals and departures, just like the cows can't wait too long. They have to come in and come out of the parlor quickly, and you just need the overall smooth running. The good thing is about runways, you can't overcrowd them like people do with dairies. So the prevalence, that's the way we've monitored lameness. So on the air, if you're managing a fleet of airplanes, that's the number of planes not fully operational at any one time. The prevalence is the number of cows lame in a snapshot today. But one thing that is really important is incident rate. So the airline companies, they would track new airplane issues to identify root causes and uncover patterns. And there's a group at University of Nottingham giving a good example of, it's called nail floor dairy. So it's a dairy with, it's a facetious example, but just to illustrate incident rate, it's a dairy with nails lying everywhere, but the prevalence is only 8%. But every day a couple of cows would stand on nails, get a nail up the hoof, have to go in the trim and chute, get it taken down. They would be sore, they would recover quite quickly. So if you look at it just from the prevalence point of view, it looks really good, but it's obviously got a big welfare, performance, and a big problem. So being able to pull these together, just like the preg rate, pull submission rate and conception rate together, is important. So that's why it's very important to track the frequency of new lameness cases. And also maintenance, you know, how often, there's a lot of information and recommendations about how many times to bring a dairy cow in to get trimmed per year. But you're taking, just like you take the plane out of action, you take the cow out away from feed, away from rest. So it's very important to be on top of that maintenance and making sure you're doing it at the optimum time required. But also, when do you give up? You know, when do these companies give up on airplanes, and when do we give up on a cow? You've got better, more efficient replacements down the line. So it's just striking that balance, and it's just getting more information to make really good decisions on that. And also, as well as the preventive maintenance, there's the return rate of treatment. So Cattle Eye has got the ability to track how often that same cow is returning for treatment, and cooperating with the herd management software to know whether it's time. Well, one is the treatment being effective? Maybe the people need retraining, the hoof trimmers or the on-farm staff need retraining, or is it pointing towards, you know, if you've got a certain number of lesions, is it pointing towards deficiencies in the management, for example, the hoof bath, concentration, frequency, or some physical factors, standing time, etc., etc. And also, yeah, the staff training. They've obviously got to, airlines have got to really be on top of it. The staff know exactly how to maintain the airports, how to do the safety checks, etc. But the big advantage is each jumbo jet is worth about $500 million US or more. They can afford to bring all this data, have people managing the data in order to ensure this. And with the value of cows or the pressure of labor, we haven't always been able to do that. But what I think is quite exciting is just this predictive power is now coming together. This is an example of another screenshot from the app. As you can see, this cow got trimmed on the 6th of June, and after that she came down and just is meeting getting to below the lameness threshold. You know, we're very interested, and I've got some exciting figures about we're learning more and doing, as Terry said, doing research with Minnesota and Liverpool about being able to predict this. So just to give you, this is an article I just screenshot it. It's a really good review in the UK Livestock, UK Vet Livestock magazine. A lot of the authors are well known within the lameness community. But I just wanted to highlight the risk factors. So for the digital fat cushion, so that's linked with sole ulcers and other mechanical reasons for lameness. But if you look at age, we know is a big risk factor. As we, for all metabolic diseases in humans, for example, COVID, and age is such a big risk factor. So the number of lactations the cow has had, genetics is playing a bigger and bigger part. There's more and more research being done to identify the genetics role in lameness. Obviously, you've got the environment, the adaptation, the floor surface, etc. What stage is she at? You know, is she at peak lactation? Late lactation has a big impact. Her body condition score dynamics, again, like all metabolic diseases, the big impact. Inflammation, and a very big one is the history, like how many cases has she had in the past. So what I want to say with all these is, we know all these, they're fairly well proven within the literature, but to pull them all together, like with the detail for a jumbo jet, to have all this information lined up has been so difficult up until now, because it's just been so hard to pull the data in. As well as that, added to that, there's also research coming out from the University of Nottingham looking at using mass spec to look at some metabolites. So they've identified metabolites that were demonstrated to have the potential to be predictive of lameness. So I think what I'm trying to say is you bring all these things together, it is very indicative of when a cow is going to have lameness, particularly if you've got that continuous mobility monitoring which Cattle Eye offers. So we've started putting incidents in, like hoof trim treatments, pen moves when she calves, if she's had mastitis. And I think that the advent of artificial intelligence is mean we can pull all this together, a bit like Tom Cruise, if any of you have seen the Minority Report, where they can predict crimes before they're going to happen and arrest the people before they're going to happen. So instead of a Minority Report, it becomes a Minority Report, which doesn't really work, but you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, kind of envisioning vets and nutritionists and consultants, advisors being able to be armed with this data to ensure that cows can be brought in before they get too lame, and really early intervention is the kind of key. Again, you can see this another screenshot from, I heard this is a really low prevalence, low incident rate herd we're working with, but you can see it dips up above the lameness threshold, probably just for one day. This is over a month, but you can see the body condition score drops down and comes back up. So there's obviously there's a big correlation between the two, and a bit of a chicken and egg of body condition score and lameness. But having this information is going to, and the predictive power is going to really be very informal on how and when to treat. So yeah, just as the parents of Nacho Fernandez were thankful he got a second opinion, and also the advent of the technology that could enable the glucose monitoring, we're hoping that Cattle Eye can give advisors and veterinarians the ability to kind of allow the cow to carry on. And instead of 5 Champions League medals, if we can get 5 lactations, so if they can add on an extra couple of lactations to the average at the moment, that reduces the carbon footprint by 40%. Yeah, just to end it, really, I think predictive analytics is the key to not only meet but exceed animal welfare expectations in the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and also the insights, I think, to the app were very interesting. Are there any questions from the audience regarding this? my question.
I find it
Yeah.
very interesting that you have a predictive maintenance, because we are also using this in the building tech and combined with farm tech. And for example, we are measuring the vibration of the pump systems, so we can exactly say when the I don't know the word in English for Lager, if the vielleicht darfst du das, Stefan, was heißt der Lager auf Englisch?
Storage or
Nein, ein Lager, ein rundes Lager, wo eine Eisenwelle durchgeht.
okay. I don't know.
I don't know, it doesn't matter. So we're also using this because it's very interesting on bring down the costs of the maintenance. And but to use this on live animals, it's I think it's a completely new advantage. So it's very impressive. Cool.
A question from my side is, you showed you have your systems like in US, UK, Germany. What does it need to set it up, for example, in a typical Austrian farm? Is there any regional specific stuff involved, or is it everywhere the same setup? So you have the one camera connected to a power source and to a network connected to your systems, and then you're ready to go, or is there something you have to
yeah, pretty much so. That's all you need. And we talk to so long as we support the parlor type, which could be Bulmatic, Gia, even Afi, then we can run it from anywhere.
Okay, great. So it also not depending on the cow type or anything. So just if you have the cow.
Well, I should say that we just support Holsteins currently.
Or pattern cows, if they're Mount Belliard would work, Terry, wouldn't they? Or as long as they're patterned.
Okay. Yeah. So any other questions? If there are, let me just for the people who are with us then afterwards watching the video. This is the email address. You can write me, or you can also contact directly Kettle Terry and Niall for questions. I'm sure they have the contact details also on the website of Kettle. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to connect Kettle with you, of course. And I thank all the participants for their participation, and also especially Niall and Terry for coming to this event and showing us their solution. I think it's very interesting, and as Niall said, it's like predictive analytics will play a large role in increasing the efficiency in the future. So yes, so if there are no further questions, I will close the event and thank all the participants for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.